Your eyes open, you think about heroin. Nothing else, nothing else. And any addict that's watching this will attest to that. And if you don't have money, you're thinking about how to get money to get heroin immediately.
It is estimated that 23.9 million Americans aged 12 or older are currently illicit drug users.
We're in such a high drug area, they don't let people use the public bathrooms.
So, Jason went for the one building he knows is always open to the public.
Excuse me? Where's the entrance to City Hall? That's Klonopin.
The use of illicit drugs has increased from 8.1% in 2008 to 9.2% in 2012.
Like over the past 3 days, like what's in your system? Like what have
I done?
Yeah.
Heroin, Klonopins, Xanax, cocaine, crack. That's it.
We found Jason at a friend's house. The two had scored some heroin mixed with the powerful drug fentanyl.
That's your shot right now, 0.1.
They prepared it while the friend's 3-year-old child watched TV in the next room, snorted more pills, and saved some heroin for later.
The number of past year heroin users increased from 373,000 in 2007 to 669,000 in 2012.
The next morning, Jason, who has overdosed 8 times and lived to tell about it, began the next chapter of his life.
In 2010, almost 3,000 young adults died from prescription drug overdoses.
It's now exactly 100 years since drugs were first banned in the United States and Britain, and we then imposed that on the rest of the world. It's a century since we made this really fateful decision to take addicts and punish them and make them suffer because we believed that would deter them, it would give them an incentive to stop. In Arizona, I went out with a group of women who were made to wear T-shirts saying I was a drug addict and go out on chain gangs and dig graves while members of the public could jeer at them. And when those women get out of prison, they're going to have criminal records that mean they'll never work in the legal economy again. But actually, almost everywhere in the world, we treat addicts to some degree like that. We punish them, we shame them, we give them criminal records, we put barriers between them reconnecting. What really causes addiction? Why do we carry on with this approach that doesn't seem to be working? And is there a better way out there that we could try instead?
The policy was that all people caught with drugs, regardless of the amount, and even if they were for their own personal use, will be legally prosecuted as drug traffickers. They will be brought into court and they may be sentenced to some time in prison. But the hardline approach didn't make a difference regarding people stopping use drugs.
1 in every 100 of the population were believed to be addicted to heroin. The country needed to forge a radical new approach to drugs.
You have to look for a way out. You have to look for a solution. We know that just repression, just prohibitionism doesn't work. We know it for certain. We have lived that.
In 2001, Portugal came up with a policy that would put its people first. A new law enabled citizens to possess small amounts of any illegal drug. It would no longer be a criminal offence for mostly casual users to enjoy their vice of choice. Instead of being punished for their dependency, they'd be offered help.
In their time, if they want, we help them to go to treatment.
A massive program of job creation for addicts and microloans for addicts to set up small businesses. So say you used to be a mechanic. When you're ready, they go to a garage and they'll say, if you employ this guy for a year, we'll pay half his wages. The goal was to make sure that every addict in Portugal had something to get out of bed for in the morning. And when I went and met the addicts in Portugal, it was fascinating. What they said is, as they rediscovered purpose, they rediscovered bonds and relationships with the wider society.
Decriminalisation has removed much of the stigma addicts felt and the fear of prosecution that stopped them from seeking help.
It's easy to them to get to us and say, okay, I have a drug problem and I need help. They don't have to lie to us. It's like, okay, I'm using and I'm not afraid to get in jail or something like that. And I think this is a big, big difference.
Take all the money we used to spend on cutting addicts off, on disconnecting them, and spend it instead on reconnecting them with the society.
90% of Portugal's anti-drugs resources are now spent on treatment and prevention, 10% on policing and punishment. In the United States, it's the opposite.
Antigamente o toxicodependente era generalizado, bandido, porque que não é a droga que tira a pessoa, que deixa de fazer que a pessoa não seja aquela pessoa.
Since decriminalisation, drug-induced deaths have dropped from 80 in 2001 to just 16 in 2012. Over the same period, the total number of heroin addicts halved.
HIV is massively down among addicts. Addiction in every study is significantly down. One of the ways you know it's worked so well is that almost nobody in Portugal wants to go back.
Globally, criminal gangs and drugs cartels continued to dominate a drugs trade worth over $300 billion.
And at the end, what you see is no matter what you do, the drugs gets to the US.
Well, it's difficult to say what the lesson is. First of all, the war on drugs in Portugal, if that's what the metaphor that you want to use, and I think it's an absurd metaphor, it's always
We all agree on that.
Yeah. The first thing is it hasn't stopped because it's not legal to distribute drugs, it's not legal to import them or produce them. That's the first thing. So they've only legalized a small amount of possession of a small amount. Actually, the crime rate has increased. It's not true that breaking and entering has reduced. It's actually increased slightly. I'm not saying it's increased because of it, but it is not true that the relationship between crime and drugs is as simple as presented.
Eurostat's Statistics in Focus bulletin says that crime in Portugal is up by 17% since 2001. And it also says that the murder rate is up by 40% since 2001.
The only two places that are being put forward at the moment are Portugal and Western Australia. They are small, isolated countries. If the United States, the United Kingdom, France, India utterly legalised drugs, then we have no idea what that would look like. We have no idea what effect that would have on children and young people.
Many people still say, well, we don't know what will happen if this is free, if we decriminalize the production and the consumption of drugs. They should look at Portugal and Colorado.
Our solution would be to not allow the use of all substances, but legalize marijuana and change the punishment for possession of illegal substances to fines depending on the quantity and or rehab.